Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, why does Montgomery County Council concentrate on social justice issues while Northern Virginia concentrates on creating jobs? Why is MCPS considering changing the school boundary lines? And do you support the Pelosi impeachment inquiry of President Trump? Stay tuned. Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by the Dean of Democratic Politics, Sam Statlin, Secretary of the Maryland Republican Party, Mark Unkefer, Maryland Young Republican National Committeeman, Evan Young, and political strategist, Susan Heltmus. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. A little less than a year ago, the region was all abuzz about the possibility of Amazon choosing Montgomery County as the location of its ballyhooed HQ2 proposal. Now, as we all know, Amazon chose to locate its 25,000 jobs in Arlington and Alexandria, and not Montgomery County. Mark, last week it was announced that the 10 Virginia counties that surround Washington metropolitan area have joined forces to create a collective regional marketing and development authority. Is Montgomery County doomed to second-class status because our politicians are focused on the wrong priorities and don't have a vision to take us to the future?
I think we'd be lucky if we were in second place. The fact is we're well beyond that. I serve on a board with the former chairs of both Arlington and Fairfax County, both Democrats, and I've always been struck by how much more focused they are about economic development than we are in Montgomery County.
But the problem, as I see this, the initiative of the 10 counties joining together to create a marketing authority, that's revolutionary, because counties normally compete with one another. In this instance, they're cooperating with one another.
And actually, there was a fair amount of coordination among them with the Amazon. As is there a fair amount of cooperation with them on transportation issues, which is really one of the big hurdles for economic development in our region.
The pie is so big that there's plenty of room for everyone in that area to get a really good sized piece.
Do you really think that? I mean, I saw the presentation by Victor Hoskins, the Economic Development Director of Arlington, who landed Amazon HQ2 to Arlington, Fairfax, and he said that if it wasn't for the cooperation of the state and the two counties together, this deal wouldn't have happened. We don't see that in the state of Maryland. Why not?
Well, Casey, we do see that. I think a shining example right now is the Purple Line that's benefiting Montgomery County as well as Prince George's County. It's a state and local project.
And when is it going to open up,
federally funded.
Is it going to open up in your lifetime?
It's going to open.
Honest to goodness, you can't build anything. So why don't they build the metro out to Upper Marlboro? Why don't they expand? Do you know what the Silver Line is doing for the economic development in Loudoun County?
Casey, we're the only metropolitan area in the world that didn't have public transportation to a major airport. But if you look, coming back to your original question, look at the economic development that's going on throughout these two areas and the cooperation between the state, federal, and local counties.
We have a problem.
I'll get to you. I want to get to Evan right now.
The biggest problem is we lose a guy like that who was a director in Prince George's County to Virginia. I think that was the big part of the story.
He also worked at Montgomery County for a while.
I think we should have kept him.
Yeah, well, we didn't. And Evan, our tax base is eroding. All the rich people are moving away, or they're dying.
Yep.
So does anybody on the county council focus on this issue?
I have no reason to believe there is. When we've talked many times on here about the county being a net exporter of adjusted gross income. More income is leaving the county than moving in. Stagnant business growth. We've lost net businesses the last few years, and since 2010, growing at a rate of 0.1% new businesses. And when we look at the makeup of the county council and the county executive, 6 out of those 10 people didn't just get on the job in 2018. They've been here for most of what we're talking about. Mark Elrich has been here for over a decade. The problems that they're looking at now, the economic issues, it's like many other issues. They look at them, they say we need to look at the causes but they've been on the job this entire time.
Well, there is a problem right now
let's
in
talk
that
about
the
that.
county executive, the first thing that he did was cancel the Montrose Parkway East. He then says we're not going to have M83 unless it's bus rapid transit. He is dead against it. And I concur. We need public transportation as much as possible, but I don't think much is going to happen in the next few years as long as Mark Elridge is county executive, because he doesn't like public roads.
And the other thing,
But wait a
Susan,
second, guys.
The other thing, Susan, is the council and our delegates opposed the governor's plan for hot lanes on I-270 and 495. I mean, they're shooting themselves and us in the foot. It's terribly short-sighted. But I want to go to the fact that 5 years ago we created the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, a big, public-private partnership. What happened?
Well, when this all came about, they took economic development and workforce development, took them out of the county. They were in one department and make it a nonprofit. The directors of both served on the same boards. And our problem is that when you compare our people with the people in Virginia, they have been there forever. They know their stuff. When we were going through all of this, the economic development director had come from Florida and doesn't know what's going on. Workforce development, which I'd worked in 15 years, is so bad that it's being taken away from the nonprofit. It may very well go to the college. But the secret, which people don't want to talk about, why Virginia got the Amazon, and that had to do with the agreement that they made about education. And Montgomery County's got to get that. What they said there is that they agreed to all sorts of training. They brought in community colleges, and the plan that they gave was overwhelming, and Montgomery County couldn't compare.
Here's the piece on education. The state of Virginia announced that they would put up $1 billion and would match any college for the funding that they provided. Virginia Tech and George Mason combined put up about $460 million.
And the community colleges are reaping the benefits over there.
This is the reason.
But we don't have a four-year college here. That is a problem also. We have the universities of Shady Grove and we have a campus of Johns Hopkins. And that makes a big difference.
It sure does. It's a lack of foresight on the part of our political leaders in Annapolis.
Oh, no, that goes back hundreds of years.
Yes, it does. It does go back 100 years.
Oh,
at least the 60 that the Democrats have been in power. I'm sure it goes back that far. But Sam, I want to change subjects here. And this is one which is kind of a hot button issue. The school board has launched a comprehensive study of the MCPS school boundaries. And the alleged basis is the fact that the schools are overcrowded and enrollment this year exceeded the projections. So what's going on here?
Casey, it's same old, same old, same old. In the 70s and 80s, I was involved with Argyle Middle School, which was the complex around the high schools in that part of the county. Springbrook, Northwood. Enrollment was increasing. The school board never acted proactively to make sure that they had the right things in place to accommodate the kids. You had portable classrooms all over the place. Then they turned around and sold Argyle, or rented it out for quite a while. Then again, turned around, brought it back, made it a school. Same thing happened in my neighborhood, where we had a new middle school put in.
Well, let me
the
ask you
boundaries,
a question.
wait a second, the boundaries were being realigned in both situations. The way it was done upset too many people. So what the Board of Education did is they blew off $500,000 to go ahead and get a study, to reinforce what they're going to do anyway.
It has to do with more kids in certain parts of the county, and they've got to make up for it.
Wait a minute, I got 2 minutes left in this segment. I want to go to Mark, because Mark is a parent. What happens when they propose that the school boundaries are going to change?
Well, the disparity that's taken place over the last couple decades is Montgomery County schools are not equal. They become less and less equal over a period of time. And the major difference between it is we've got some zip codes where the families, the parents, have among the highest percentage of graduate degrees in the country. And Montgomery County expects the parents to supplement the education of the kids in those
Oh,
districts.
I disagree with you.
All right, wait,
They
I
came
wanna-
out
It's
with an
mostly about the
edict
have-nots
preventing-
that caused
They
this.
came
that-
out
is
with
it-
an
what- is
edict
the have and the
preventing
have-nots, is
parents
that it?
from putting
Well,
cash into
there
these
are
schools.
neighborhoods in this county where the growth has been exponentially large, and there is not.
But isn't
room
there
in
a
those-
concern, and I want to go to Evan on this, isn't there a concern, certainly at the council level, that they want to change the boundaries because of the racial composition in the schools?
Well, they admitted as much when they were determining who would get the contract to do this study. One of the things that they said needed to be prioritized was how the boundary changes would affect demographics and diversity. No one's against diversity, but sending a student miles away from
But
the
it
school they
has
should
to
be
do with
going
the fact
to.
that Blair High School was over capacity the day it
Okay.
opened. It happens that the
Susan,
schools
so
in the lower
the-
county
we gotta
are way
break
too
up
full.
the
gotta wrap it
boundaries
up,
for that
guys.
reason,
part
not
of the
for race.
county.
There's,
Going up
but
towards
here's what
Burgessville.
here's the question, Sam. This is the exit question. Does the school board have too much authority, and should some of that authority be placed at the council level?
No.
Look, as far as I'm concerned, the school board
Quickly.
is a rubber stamp.
Okay.
They don't do anything unless it's recommended by the superintendent of schools. I think they should be eliminated. We should save the money.
All right. Now, as we go to break, if anybody wants to learn why Northern Virginia is booming, Montgomery County is not, the same Victor Hoskins who scored Amazon is the featured speaker at the Biz Now on Business event next Thursday in Tyson's Corner. There's still tickets available as of yesterday. But I'd recommend that the entire county council and the county executive should attend. They might learn something new. And when we come back from this short break, what can be learned from a fake hate crime in Fairfax County? And do you support the impeachment inquiry of President Trump? Stay tuned. Welcome back. Allegations of a racial hate crime reverberated through the community and it impacted everyone. There's more awareness and scrutiny focused on how governments handle these incidents than ever before. So the allegations that a 12-year-old girl at Emmanuel Christian School had been verbally and physically attacked by 3 white classmates stunned the region and the community. Headlines were written, tweets were tweeted, politicians of all stripes and the self-appointed moral arbiters did what they always do. They opined, and they opined loudly. Later it was learned that the story wasn't true. It was all a hoax. Susan, as Montgomery County attempts to implement programs of racial equity and social justice, is there a takeaway that we can learn from a hate crime that was fabricated?
I think we should just ignore that hate crime. The story goes that, yes, she lied about it, but I've also been told that she was bullied some. And so I think we should just forget that and focus on what we can do in Montgomery County. And there is a lot of racial disparity and there is a lot of racism going on in this county. So I think we need to move forward. I think it's a good start. I hope they don't get carried away, and I hope that there's
Susan,
a lot of.
why do you want to just sweep this under the table?
Because
I mean, this is really a hate crime against those white boys.
No, it is.
Yes,
a hate,
it is.
But it was
because
by
it is
the
a cheap.
little
It
girl
is a
who
cheap.
was
It is
bullied.
a cheap. It is a cheap accusation that is going to gain public attention, and it's damaging.
And there lies the whole problem. The problem was a knee-jerk reaction, which didn't allow people to fully investigate, and instead we got just what you said: a lot of verbiage, a lot of publicity, and in the end, a retraction.
But here's what I'm concerned about, Sam. If we're so worried about racial injustice and equity, we have to look and see that we're not jumping to conclusions, and we're not blaming people for things that they don't commit.
That's what this commission is supposed to deal with, so that doesn't happen. That there are expectations, that we take care of things ahead of.
Is that why? What is a racial equity and social justice impact statement going to do on the bottom of every piece of legislation that Montgomery County implements? How is that going to? Isn't legislation designed to help the entire community, the entire county, not just certain minority parts?
But you have to start with the servers of the services, which is the county, which is why all county employees are being
Who writes the
retrained
legislation,
for
Sam?
racial equality and how to be respectful of people and talking to them and getting things done. The letter of equality is, to me, just fluff.
Sam, you'd think that during the last 12 years when Ike Leggett was county executive that the county was being run by, oh, I don't know, Bull Connor or something. I mean, it's not that we've got this huge legacy of discrimination that we suddenly have to change. I'm not saying that there are no issues at all.
There is a lot more than what you think.
I'm sorry, Evan. I'm sorry I didn't get you in. We got to roll to our next topic, which I'm sure everybody wants to talk about, and that is the impeachment of Donald Trump. The drumbeats of impeachment have been beating louder and louder for many times since November 6th of 2016. And Sam, there are really two aspects of the decision by House Speaker Pelosi to announce an impeachment inquiry. Is it good politics, and is it good politics?
I personally think it's bad politics. Look, she waited 2 years before acting. Now she's acted. But the true question becomes, are there enough Republicans in the Senate who would even consider hearing on whether or not to find the man guilty of an impeachment? And right now, there isn't. So in my opinion, this is an entire waste of time.
What about the fact that she hasn't held a vote among the entire House on impeachment and is doing this? This is like a star chamber jury that's doing the examination. Mark, a different version than this. What I asked Sam is, and Sam touched on this.
Right.
Would they have been better off to do the drip of allegations until next year?
You know, I don't know, because we've had nothing but a fire hose since the November 2016 of allegations and accusations, and things we're going to be told are about to be revealed, and then something else comes out. I was, an analyst, a strategist for the president, who I trust quite a bit, and I think has a lot of insights. Was involved with the Clinton impeachment process. He predicted last November that Nancy Pelosi, as Speaker, could not resist going to impeachment. And a few months ago, you say, look, they've held it off. And the comment then was, no, wait, she cannot avoid the pressures to go for impeachment.
So
well, that's politics.
So is it good politics or bad politics?
I think. Well, I will tell you, from the perspective of somebody from the people who went through the Clinton impeachment, 20 years ago, the response generally is, quite frankly, that was a colossal mistake, and that was about lying about
and that sex. Was something. This is a whole lot different.
Well, we'll get to that, Susan, in a second. But Evan, you're on the ground as the National Committeeman for Young Republicans, and so you're closer to the politics. What has this announced inquiry had, and what impact has it had on the Republican base?
Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff have done more for the Trump campaign than Donald Trump could ever hope to do. $125 million fundraising for the RNC in the third quarter, over $300 million this year, over $13 million in the day after Nancy Pelosi first announced this inquiry. So what Democrats were hoping would happen was all those swing state Trump voters from 2016 that maybe weren't regular voters in the past would lose their enthusiasm, wouldn't come out, wouldn't support this president again. Well, with one announcement and all these nonstop hearings and attacks on the president, all they've done is make people not only get re-energized leading up to an election, but open their wallets, get engaged. So I thank Nancy Pelosi for this, because she has gotten voters and Republican donors and activists more engaged than they ever were before. Fundraising for the RNC is through the roof. Nancy, keep up what you're doing.
However, the election itself is not till next year. And the question is going to be how the Rust Belt voters that voted for Mr. Trump are going to view no manufacturing increases, and no jobs, people sitting on their doorsteps.
Excuse me, Sam, did you hear the announcement
or
today?
Or the unemployment rate,
it was
the
lowest unemployment in 50 years?
Yes, but that's a broad, countrywide figure.
All right, Susan, I want to go to you. I want to go to Susan on this.
I mean, I think that's going to be the important thing, and that's going to decide the election,
well,
not
then
any
they
of
should
this
be talking
stuff.
about that, not fake impeachment.
Exactly, I agree.
All right, can I go to Susan now? Thank you. Susan, now, I know that that you support the impeachment of the president, but don't you have some trepidations about what former Vice President Biden did with respect to the treatment of the Attorney General in the Ukraine?
No.
And more overly, how he brought his son on Air Force Two to essentially a business meeting in China, and the young man introduced the vice president to all of his business
and
associates.
nothing came of it. I just want you to know that what Joe Biden did was on behalf of, it had to do with the United Nations and the EU, and what he did was to get rid of a truly corrupt person. And I think that when you look at this and what is happening in the last 2 days, and you watch the behavior with the president, you know he is being cornered. He has become fanatical.
Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he, Susan?
Well, but let me finish.
After 2 years of 4 years of nonstop.
Let me finish. What has happened is that the
attacks.
Treasury Department and the Inspector General has started an investigation. The chair of the FCC said today, again, what the president is doing is wrong.
Does it bother you that the whistleblower form that had previously required direct knowledge?
No, that's not true. That's what the president said. It was clarified today.
Oh,
no,
it was clarified.
It was clarified today. And what's interesting is Mike Pompeo doesn't want to agree, but when Clinton was through this and Pompeo had a big job in Congress, he did. Susan, he pulled it through.
You got your talking points out. I'm very proud of you.
But
we got to go to break.
It's not funny, and Trump is the most corrupt president we've ever had, and it is coming through. And I do not understand how Republicans can keep on saying protect this man, because everybody knows he's bad. But
not
they're
everybody
afraid.
does.
Oh, they do.
There were 8 million people who voted for him, Susan. They don't know he's bad, and you can stay tuned for Parting Shots. And welcome back. Now with Parting Shots, Susan Eltibus.
I think we should all start watching the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court today decided to take the Louisiana abortion case. And so pro-choice supporters, keep your eyes on that to see what happens. And also I want to say something about Real ID. If you haven't gotten your Real ID in Maryland, it's really important if you ever fly. All you have to do is go on the DMV website. It takes you about 5 minutes to fill out the form. I'm going Monday. They called me today to remind me, and they said it'll take 5 to 7 minutes. So do it, get your Real ID as soon as possible.
Thank you, Susan. Evan Young, your parting shot.
It's October, best month of the year, and by the time you're watching this, it probably means I have turned 31. Just want to give a congratulations to my parents for having me, all of you for knowing me, my hairline, biceps for not looking a day over 25. And I look forward to the next 31 years of just being a remarkable physical specimen. Happy birthday to me.
Well, I'm glad you're modest, Evan. Mark Unkefer, your parting shot.
Casey, the only way I can possibly top that is to point out that this week we announced, the Department of Labor came out with statistics. We now have the lowest unemployment rate, 3.5%, that we've had since the 1960s. And within the subcategories, such as African American or Hispanic or disabled, it's the lowest that it has been ever. This is an economy, if you look at the, quote, misery index, the misery index under President Trump, unemployment and inflation combined together, is the lowest it has been for any of the 13 presidents that we've had since after World War II.
Thank you, Mark. Sam Statlin, welcome back. It's good to see you. Your parting shot.
Folks, we had a big loss this week. Our friend Barry Schwartz, founder and magic chef at BJ Pumpernickel's, passed away. Barry's loss was tremendous to the Albany community. He had raised several million dollars that went to the fire department, police department, Montgomery General Hospital, and it's going to be a big, big loss for us. So we all mourn Barry Schwartz.
Thank you, Sam. I want to thank everybody for being here. Now, we talk a lot about economic development, and we're highly critical of our county council. But I love living here in Montgomery County. It's been my home for 45 years, and it's truly a wonderful place to live. One of the things that we sometimes overlook are all the positive things that we have in Montgomery County. We have a hugely well-educated populace. We've got beautiful parks. We've got great lands. We've got wonderful retail. And so we should celebrate living here in Montgomery County. So for 21 this week, I'm going to think about that on this wonderful weekend. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show. For 21 this week, I'm Casey Aiken.